please say that we are, amongst the HO team, we're all having connection issues. All of us have had different issues. And if any of us go offline tonight, could you just be patient with us, and we're all going to try to get back online. So we apologise for that. It's happened to several of us and also to the staff team. So I don't know if there's any disruption. I can see that there's a hand up already. Can I ask if that's a person with a point of order? Otherwise, can you put your hand down? I can see that Boris Michaels has got his hand up, now down. Thank you. We're just still letting in more people. Thank you. And again, apologies for any connection issues which I fear might happen. Just looking to see how many we've got in the waiting room. Right. Okay. We'll just give everybody another minute. Thank you for your patience. Right, thank you. I think we're going to start now. So we've got 118 people more coming into the waiting room. So Shana Tava Hagsameach, I hope you all had a very, very good Yom Tov. It's really good to see you all here today. Can I ask, as a matter of housekeeping, if you are going to speak, can you please give your name and your constituency? And can we move on to the approval, first of all, of the minutes of the last meeting held on the 18th of September? I haven't had any comments. Can I just ask if those minutes are approved? Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Can we give a big welcome, please, to Michael Ziff, who's been elected as treasurer. And he's going to speak to us about his mission statement and give a presentation and take some questions. So over to you, Michael. And someone's just said to me the sound is very poor. Again, I don't know if it's the reception. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me? Yes, the thumbs are going up, but I am concerned. So Lawrence, I hope. Over to you.
Michael, go ahead.
Okay, I just couldn't hear what she was saying, Ben. Good evening, everybody. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you all for those of you who nominated me to be the treasurer and chair of F&O. I very much appreciate your support. I look forward all to working with you all. Hopefully we will have a bit of fun as well as the seriousness of everything that we have to do. A lot of hard work is required. I'd like to thank my predecessor, Ben, for everything that he did. And I know the amount of work that Ben put into the job was exceedingly, was tremendous. I mean, he just worked very hard at it. And I hope that I'm able to do the same for everybody here. I think the key, firstly, it's obviously to take any questions, but just before that, what I would say is, if anybody wants to contact me at any time, my email address is available, my mobile phone is available. I'm available most of the time, and if I don't, not available at a specific time, I will get back to you. And I've set everything out very much in my mission statement, what I want to try and achieve. In particular, there is obviously going to be a requirement for a lot of fundraising, Fundraising requires, and it's something I've been involved with for most of my charity life, requires going to face-to-face meetings with people. And you can't do face-to-face meetings over Zoom. You can, but I don't think it's the same as actually going to see people. So I've never had a problem traveling. As many of you know, I used to be in the retail business, and I traveled throughout most of the country. There's probably not a town or city in the country that I've not been to, and probably not many synagogues either that I've not been to. One of the things I did when my dad died 18 years ago was actually to go and visit 135 synagogues when I was saying Kaddish. So probably many of your synagogues I have been to at some point in my life. But there we go. So I look forward to working with all of you. Has anybody got any questions?
I think I can see Vicky Harris's hand. I can see your hand, Vicky. Thank you. And I can see your virtual hand. Thank you.
Hi, Vicky. You're muted, Vicky.
Thank you.
You're still muted.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Thank you, Michael. Well, delighted to see another former Palakian with their hands on the reins of finance. And thank you very much indeed for your mission statement. It was really splendid to read what you've written. My question relates not to your experience in corporate finance in Slater Walker, because I think that better be put on one side, but rather to ask you whether in presenting data to deputies, you would consider presenting data which shows which parts of the strategic plan are having overspends or underspends. When I looked at today's information that was provided for us, yes, there are variances shown, but at the end of the day, what I would be interested personally in, and others may have a different perspective on this, would be knowing how much was budgeted for work on, shall we say, fighting BDS, how much is budgeted for other parts of the strategic plan, fighting anti-Semitism, etc., and how that's going. Is that going to be something that you can do? And the only other point I'd like to make is I welcome your thrust towards raising money for the board, and have noted that there is some concern expressed in the recent financial statements about the community contribution. But I do think that for deputies to expect a £300 donation from each of us to attend the first fundraising efforts might be, at this time of heat versus eat for some people, a step too far. Thank you.
Okay, so there's a number of questions that you've asked there. I'll try and answer those as best as possible. I was about to say, I think you've disappeared. No, I can see you on the other side. The question on the breakdown of the budgets, obviously we've had the high holidays, we've had the Sukkot since I've been appointed. Brian and I have not had a chance to sit down and go through everything in detail. We are meeting tomorrow. I know that the team of people which Sid has been leading, and those who have been involved in the budget and the budgeting process, are all of them excellent either accountants or business people who have had a fairly good understanding of reading numbers and looking into things in detail. And I will be talking with them about the budgets as best as possible in the shortest time possible. But trying to get up to speed over the last few weeks has not exactly been the easiest opportunities, given that we've had 5 weeks or 4 weeks where we've not had a full week of work. So I apologize if I've not been able to get up to speed quickly enough, but we are trying to do so as quickly as possible. With regard to the event and the £300, I think the £300 was a figure that we chose to say that's what we would like people to give. If I had somebody who called me last night, a friend who I'd invited to the event, and he said, "Look, I'm not in a position to give 300. Will you take £150?" Well, I'm obviously going to say, "No, you can't come." I think common sense has to prevail, particularly at this time. But notwithstanding that, it's the old story. If we could get 1,000 people in England, in Great Britain, sorry, who are here, and I'm sorry, Edward, and Scotland and Wales. I wasn't trying to not, but if you take the country, and if we could get 1,000 Jews each to put £100 in their pocket for the organisation, we'd be well on our way to raising a serious amount of money, and we wouldn't have to ask for £300. But it was choosing a figure, try and get going, and try and let's get the organisation and let's get an event started. But at the end of the day, we'll take what's given. And have I answered your two main questions there, Vicky?
I think Vicky's saying that she doesn't think you are, but that's the answer you've given. And I'm sure, Michael, that you'll be very pleased to speak to Vicky offline.
We were going to get together at some point, so let's try and do that, Vicky.
Because Vicky has made it very clear that he's very approachable, very happy to talk to people, and he's 1 week into the job, so I think he deserves a little bit of leeway. Is anyone else wanting to ask any questions from Michael? No? Okay, thank you. And again, also I would also like to reiterate all of my thanks to Ben, and thank you Michael for taking this on and wanting to be someone that you can talk to, and I'm sure that Vicky will contact you very promptly tomorrow. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to the President's statement, can I give some good news, some muzzle toss to Joy Wolf on the birth of 2 great-grandchildren, Keith Myers on the bar mitzvah of his son Harry, and Edward Cohen on the birth of Abby, his great-granddaughter. And I'm very sorry to give condolences to David May on the death of his father. Since we last had our meeting, and apologies that it has had to be in 2 parts. We've obviously had the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen. That was an incredibly moving occasion. I was very proud to lead the faith community delegation, and I wrote an article in there about the Jewish Chronicle, but I'd like to thank everybody from Sheila, who I know spent I think 9 or 10 hours queuing, to everybody who has written in the condolence book. And I know that you may want to see those messages, so you can click on the link. But it was an opportunity that I will never forget, to actually be in Westminster Abbey and to come face to face with President Biden and his wife. Was just an incredible experience. And also it made a huge difference that straight away King Charles asked to see the faith leaders at Buckingham Palace. He has reassured us that he wants to be a king for all faiths. He's been a very good friend to the community. We all remember the fantastic event at Buckingham Palace that he did in 2019, and I think that we are very lucky to have him and Queen Consort Camilla. He's pledged himself to all his subjects, and I know that he will be a loyal and true friend to the community. So I've set out in the President's statement what I see the issues are. I anticipate there may be a few questions. I haven't seen any gone up yet, but I'm sure that a few are going to go up. I can see Jeremy, right, okay, you are going up, thank you. Now I'm going to apologise that not everybody, there may not be time for everybody, so I'm going to take up people that I think, some people that haven't spoken, and to see. Right, Jeremy Michelson, you were first.
Jeremy Michelson, Manchester Great New and Central Synagogue. I'd like to congratulate you, Marie, on the on suggesting, well, in response to Liz Truss's suggestion that we might move the embassy to West Jerusalem. I think this, and the fact that you encouraged it, I think is absolutely right. I don't think it has any impact at all on the peace process. Jerusalem has been the eternal capital of the Jewish people for nearly 3,500 years, and in Isaiah chapter 56, we talk about Isaiah says that the house, when the third temple is rebuilt, should be a house of prayer for all nations, not just Jews. So Jerusalem will be open for everybody to come and worship, and for those who don't wish to come and worship, but to be there as well. And it doesn't affect the fact that it doesn't affect the idea of a Palestinian state. Far from it. There could still be one, and also that people are concerned about the possibility of violence. Well, may I remind you that every so often, rabble-rousers accuse Israel of wanting to destroy the Al-Aqsa Mosque, etc. And this is, as an excuse for riots in East Jerusalem. This has been untrue. It's been untrue for the last 100 years. And it's certainly untrue now. So I think it's something that we should all support, and well done.
Thank you. I can see that Edwin Shucker has put his virtual hand up, so I'm going to let Edwin speak.
Madam President, I want to thank you for your comments in support of moving the British Embassy to West Jerusalem. Madam President, in 586 before Common Era, our ancestors were marched captives after the destruction of the first temple to Babylon. And there they sat by the rivers of Babylon and wept for Zion. They wept for Jerusalem. 100 generations following that, Jews prayed to return to Zion. Not to Tel Aviv, not to Ra'anana, but to Jerusalem. It is for the politicians in every country to decide on what is the right time to move and what is the right time to wait. But for me, as a Jew, it is always the right time to pray to return for the Jerusalem, the eternal capital of the Jewish people and the state of Israel. I thank you for your comments.
Thank you. Trying to take some people who haven't spoken as much, and I don't know what you're going to say. Julian Pollard. You'll have to come off mute. And just a reminder to everyone, can you say your name and constituency, please?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, over to you.
Thank you. Julian Pollard, Maganavot Hendon. Madam President, I've read your statement very carefully, and with great respect to you and to the other speakers this evening. This is not a matter of, to my mind, this is not a matter of personal interest. I may very well desire the embassy to be moved to Jerusalem. We are speaking as a board, and I'm concerned that we are entering what is clearly a debate of some complexity. And I'm not sure, and with great respect to you, Madam President, that the Constitution authorizes you to get involved in a matter of this nature. You've referred to paragraph 3 of the Constitution. It can only fall under subparagraph D, and I don't believe that it does. I'm happy to be corrected. But general principle is that we should be very careful and very cautious before engaging in matters which are for an intergovernmental decision, and where we place reliance on pressure made on a particular member of a government who may be changing in a few days or few weeks' time, and that could then be overturned. We need to tread carefully and warily. And I would urge the board to think before we engage in these matters when there are much more urgent pressing issues within this country that we need to address. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, I do think it comes under section 3D of the Constitution. And of course, if people want to have a motion, there is a constitutional process that people can use under the Constitution. Harriet Goldenberg. Thank you. Everyone is entitled to their opinion. We are very happy to hear. Harriet.
Oh, hi. Thank you very much, Madam President. Yes, I wanted to ask, there's mention in the board's newsletter, promoted a letter in support for your lobbying of the government to move the embassy to Jerusalem. And I wondered whether you actually agree with the letter that communal groups who've opposed the embassy move, including the Reform Movement and over 100 Zionist youth movement leaders, are on the fringes of the community. Is that how you would describe them?
I think that's not really a very appropriate question. People are entitled to have their views. I don't think you should ask me if I think that a mass of people are fringes. It's well known that I attend a Reform synagogue, and 600 people have signed a letter of support, including Rabbi Jonathan Romaine, who is also a Reform rabbi in Maidenhead. I think people of all ages and all walks of society may sign letters, and I don't think it's appropriate to call people who are in any part fringes. And if you want to ask about specific people, perhaps you could do that offline, but we're not here to denigrate people. That's not our purpose. If we have differing views, I think that's fine, but I don't think people should be called out as being on a fringe. It's not a good way for us to engage, and I think we should all show each other respect. And of course, it's very healthy for Jews to have many and diverse opinions. So thank you. Borek Michaels, you were up first. So would you like to speak?
Good evening, dear respected members. The Israel-Palestine conflict is certainly a divisive issue, a divisive topic, especially on the university campuses. I certainly have faced plenty of very scary experiences during my attempts to respectfully converse with pro-Palestinian students. Far be it for members to believe that an overwhelming majority of young people and university students are left-wing on Israel. Many that I have met and spoken to from a diverse range of religious backgrounds and denominations believe that universally recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital will further peace in the long term by allowing the three-faiths equal symbolic access to a hub of historical spirituality. I by no means am solely articulating my personal opinion, but that of some of the constituents that I represent, namely university students. We as deputies represent our respective synagogues or organizations, and importantly, not ourselves. In conclusion, the opinion of Jewish students on the question of Israel, I believe, is not simply left-leaning. It's very much divided, with many supporting the president's comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Marilyn Key. You're on mute. Sorry. There you go.
Am I there now? Hi, Marilyn Keane, Bournemouth Hebrew Congregation. Marie, good evening. It's unfortunate that the coronation will be taking place on a Shabbat in 2023. Are you able at this time to indicate who will formally be representing the UK Jewish community at the coronation in Westminster Abbey? Thank you.
I'm sorry, I don't have the guest list, and I don't have control of the guest list. It is unfortunate that it's Shabbat, but we know the King is a great friend to the Jewish community, and it may well be possible if representatives of the community are able to walk, that they can attend various parts of the ceremony, but we don't have those details. I know it will be disappointing for a lot of Orthodox Jews that they may not be able to watch on television, and I am sorry for that. But the King, as I say, is a good friend. We absolutely wish him well, and I'm sure that we will all make the very best of it, and we'll keep an eye on it. Thank you. Nick Grant. I guess you're representing Mitzvah Day with your shirt.
I certainly am. Yes, my name is Nick Grant and I am the Deputy representing Mitzvah Day. So, President Marie, thank you. I should like to ask if my fellow deputies could check with their respective organisation that it has some plans in place to undertake some good deeds for their local community in 1 month's time on Sunday, the 20th of November, which is Mitzvah Day. For those who are new to Mitzvah Day, it's a day of social action when we come together to give our time and not money to make a difference to those needy around us. It's a Jewish-led initiative, also looking to bring together people of all faiths and backgrounds to volunteer side by side. This year, Mitzvah Day is promoting a winter warmers campaign, which recognizing the effects of the cold winter nights and the difficulty that many people will have in heating their homes, we are suggesting that you could be helping the elderly and homeless by perhaps undertaking a collection of warm hats, coats, socks or gloves, or perhaps by providing hot meals or even by knitting squares to be turned into warm blankets. There are no end of ways that company, comfort and care can be offered. If you have a Mitzvah Day project that needs some help with starting up, do please contact me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that the deputies are all very good-hearted, so anyone that can help, thank you. Noah Katz, would you like to speak?
Thank you, Marie. So I do not dispute necessarily your comments at Tory Party conference over the move of the embassy. My qualm here is not with foreign policy. My day job, I am the Vice President of Education at Students' Union up here in Lancaster. I am democratically elected by a group of my peers, and I do not take any policy decision without consulting those peers. I move to you, Madam President, what nature, again, in my written question, as I move to you now, where did you consult the board at large on this policy move? And why did you deem it appropriate to endorse said policy move, like I said, regardless of that move? Why did you deem that appropriate to do at such scale without similar scale of consultation amongst your constituents elected as us as the deputies?
Thank you. I have written an extensive response to that, and you are all aware this was a CFI reception, and I have absolutely clear in my mind that this is long-standing policy. There's nothing new here. In 2017, Jonathan Arkett, who has also signed the letter of support with Richard Verber, made a very long statement on it, and supporting a review is something that I have said and I stand by is positive, and we will be waiting to see what the actual review is. If people want to put in a motion, the signatures are there, the constitutional procedures are there for people to do that. You are democratically elected, but so am I democratically elected, and my always been known, and the people that are asking these questions, with the greatest of respect, didn't object when criticism was made of Smotrich. There was no all of the putting up, there was nobody actually saying that Smotrich shouldn't have been criticised by the board. So it can perhaps be a little self-serving, but we are waiting for the review, and the policy is something that is very long-standing. I received letters from 6 deputies, and obviously there were 12 questions from deputies, and the overwhelming number of deputies, I'm confident in the board, are supportive. And of course, I'm always sorry when people disagree. Everyone's got the right to have their opinions, and I respect people that have got differing opinions. We've had a very good debate on a 2-state solution. I think that's very important. But if it's being suggested here that we shouldn't, for example, comment on Smotrich, for example, if there's a general election, that would also be something where if people are seriously saying that you're in a CFI function, that you've got to actually leave and consult all the deputies. It's not going to be something that's feasible or practical. And as I've explained already, I did consult with all those that were present at the CFI event. So I can see a couple of people laughing. You can laugh, but that is the position. I am elected as president, and if people want to have a debate on it, want to have a vote on it, I haven't pushed that because I think that in itself can be divisive. But if people want to have a vote on the embassy move, then that's something we can do. We can have a debate. People can do that, and you're all entitled to give your views. And I think it's really good that you are. I also had a letter of 600 people giving their support. The overwhelming position is of support, but I am sorry if people feel they're not being listened to or they don't agree. We mostly do have consensus, but it's very difficult to have consensus all of the time. James Harris, would you like to speak?
Firstly, just as a point of order, I hope this won't be taking up my time. Please, could you, Marie, just ensure that the minutes of the executive committee meeting be published, just because I don't think they were in the papers, despite them obviously being cited on the agenda. That'd be appreciated. I guess to my main point, I guess the time starts now. This isn't a question of whether the policy of moving the embassy is right or wrong. As it happens, this isn't self-serving for me. And in principle, I would agree with the move of the British Embassy to Jerusalem. But in my view, for the President to make the announcement that she made unilaterally and with little to no consultation of deputies, not of just members at the Conservative Friends of Israel reception, is unwise, despite the fact that the government may or may not be changing imminently. And it cannot be in the spirit of democracy. I contend that deputies deserve better, and we are being stripped of any opportunity to scrutinise board policy. This isn't about motions or votes, but consultation should be had. Truss's policy on a review of the embassy location was not suddenly realised at the Conservative Friends of Israel reception, but was pledged in the Tory leadership contest about a month before. There was therefore no need to make up policy on the hoof, or indeed announce any type of policy whatsoever. Instead, the President should have consulted deputies and come to a considered view with the participation of a range of deputies, again, not just deputies present at the event. The President was elected on a mandate to work with deputies, and as I said before, we, and most importantly our constituents, deserve the right to scrutinise policy before its announcement to the public domain and not after the fact. The effects of this announcement are politically short-sighted and are reminiscent of Liz Truss's recent off-the-cuff announcements on the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Look, you're entitled to your opinion. Very senior people were present at the CFI event, and I'm very sorry that it wasn't possible to stop the CFI event and obviously speak and consult with deputies. But it's long-standing policy. It's policy since the time of Jonathan Arkush and Richard Berber, and this is supporting a review. And there's going to be a full review, and we will all have the opportunity to be able to comment when that review has been completed. So again, I'm sorry if you feel there should have been consultation at the, I'm aware that Liz Truss had met with Yair Lapid as well, where it had been mooted, but there was a response that was needed to that. And the response is that we welcome the review. So I hope that the review will be extensive, and I'm sure that we can discuss it. And again, if anybody wants to bring a motion, if they are unhappy with it, they're perfectly able to do so under the Constitution. I had letters from 6 deputies, but I respect everybody's opinion, and that unfortunately we can't always on the hoof have extensive consultations, but we can have a debate on this, and we can have a vote on it. It's a matter of whether the deputies actually want to do that. Can I try Mervyn? You haven't spoken for a long time. Mervyn Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm hugely disappointed that we're spending a lot of time on something which is not material to the activity or benefits of Jewish communities in this country. All I'm hearing is some students and some youth organizations having a concern with regard to the rights or wrongs of of the United Kingdom accepting the fact that, along with all other countries, the state of Israel determines where its seat is. And I think it's totally wrong that we're spending a lot of time on a discussion about it. One of the problems, perhaps, is that a lot of the perhaps students, perhaps organizations such as Yachad and Na'adom don't have a history, understanding of the state of Israel, and therefore go along with an awful lot of matters which, in my opinion, will produce absolutely nothing to benefit peace existence. My opinion is that the Arabs and the Palestinians should actually consider what the defeated Germans did when the Second World War was ended. They stood back and saw the United States and Europe, particularly the United Kingdom, were strong and going to be powerful to benefit people. And they chose the road to do exactly the same thing. The Palestinians have got no such thoughts, and perhaps that's because they have evolved into a cult organization, and that, I think, is so sad for the Palestinians that wish to have a satisfactory life.
Thank you, thank you. Can I also mention that perhaps some people's views are changeable. I've got the President's statement, October 2022, and I meant to say to James Harris, I'd just like to read out his question. His question was, I commend the President's commitment to supporting a move of the British Embassy in Israel to its capital city, Jerusalem. Has the board discussed this endeavour with the Israeli Embassy and/or Foreign Office, and when does the President hope that the embassy may be relocated by? So I think that was perhaps a slight change of stance from what was just put forward. I'm having some connection issue. I'm just telling you that now, just to let you know in case anything happens. Karen Newman, and then Brian Bloom. I know that you will want to talk about Ajax. Are you unmuted, Karen?
Yes, I am now. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam President. Karen Newman from the Liberal Jewish Synagogue. Marie, I don't underestimate how difficult it is to represent all of British Jews. I think that's an incredibly difficult thing to do. And I think that's what the board is in business to do. It is representative of all British Jews. The difficulty with what you said about moving the embassy, Marie, is that this is one of the most divisive issues in British Jewry. I really struggle to think of any other issue that's as divisive as issues around Israel. And within that, moving the embassy to Jerusalem is particularly divisive, difficult, controversial, problematic. When a statement as difficult and controversial as that is made by the board, two things happen immediately. One is that there are an awful lot of deputies who are saying, hang on a minute, you're not speaking for me. That's not what I think. And then worse is what happens is that our constituencies come to us and say, the board doesn't speak for us. You say that there's a progressive voice in the board. We can't hear it. If that's what the board says, why do we pay the communal contribution? So what I want to say to you, Marie, is not about the rights and wrongs of what you said. It's not even about the rights and wrongs or whether or not you should have said it. The issue for me is the difficult or almost impossible position that you put a really significant number of deputies in when we are day in and day out trying to say the board is important, we need to be a part of it, we are part of the all. When a statement such as this is made, you make it very difficult and you put directly in jeopardy our capacity to say to our fellow congregants, yes, you must pay the board levy. It's a really, really important thing. We're part of this organization. They're listening. It does speak for all British Jewry. When you say that the embassy should be moved to Jerusalem right now, you are speaking for very, very far from the entire British Jewish community. So for me, that's the issue I wanted to bring to your attention within the context, understanding that there's always 4 Jews, 5 opinions, but there are very few issues on which is as important as this to try and speak for all of us, or not at all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Karen, for your view. Can I just say, you have brought up, which is fair enough, I haven't, about progressive shawls paying their communal contribution. You would actually be very shocked at some of the major progressive shawls that have not paid virtually any communal contribution, which is well before the embassy statement. I just want to make that clear. If you're saying people are all paying that, there is quite a disparity. Figures haven't been published, but you would be surprised. There's also a lot of people that are progressive that do support the move from the embassy. I want to remind everyone that I myself am a member of West London Synagogue, and people who are progressive shouldn't just be characterised. People have all different opinions based on whether your age or your denomination. Efrat Sofer, and then Brian Bloom.
Thank you, Madam President. I hope you can hear me. I'm having unstable internet, but I'll make it brief. I'd like to thank you, Madam President, for your statement in support of the government moving the embassy to Jerusalem. I find that this is a matter for which we have elected you, Madam President, to use our voice, and especially in this important matter of the status of Jerusalem as Israel's capital. And it's throughout history, as Edwin Shuker stated, Jerusalem has been for centuries the Jewish capital and the capital of the Jewish people, of course, including and allowing other faiths to practice freely, openly, and grow. But this is a matter of leadership, and this is where you, Madam President, demonstrated this leadership. And as the representative body, we must not be ashamed of using our voice and in supporting the government's efforts to move the embassy. Thank you.
Thank you. Brian Bloom.
Good evening. Brian Bloom, Ajax. Obviously, I wish to speak about Ajax and about our upcoming parade in November. I'd like to invite you all of you, most of you have had family who have served in this country's armed forces. We must advise that the wider community in this country that we as Jews have served and still serve in Her Majesty's Armed Forces, and we have done for 250 years. The Ajax Shabbat services will be in many shores across the country on the 12th of November and the 19th of November. I would implore you that if you would like to go to shore on that Shabbat, dig out your family's medals and wear them with pride and show everybody that we still remember all their sacrifices. On the Ajax parade, which is on the 20th of November, I hope to see as many of you as possible, with your families if possible, parading with us. Many of you will not be able to do so because of distance. In that case, may we ask you, please, to go to your local cenotaphs on the National Remembrance Sunday and show that we as Jews are proud of what we have contributed to this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will certainly be there. We'll all be proud to march, and I'd like to thank Denise Lester in advance because I know that she always leads, and to thank her. Karen Maxwell, you don't often speak. Over to you. We can't hear you, Karen.
Good evening, fellow deputies. I'm Karen Maxwell from the Liberal Jewish Synagogue. My question or observation relates to the debates that we've seen on the various WhatsApp groups in recent times. I mean, I appreciate that these are not official board channels, but it does demonstrate that there's evidently appetite for some informal debate, shall we say, on a range of issues, particularly the one we've just been talking about. And these issues are obviously relevant and important to many deputies. So I would like to suggest that it might be useful to look at opportunities to hold more informal debates on a range of issues. And maybe these could then be a little bit more scrutinized, ensuring that there's good debate, open debate, and that we're still observing rules of courtesy and respect. So I would love to see some more debate. And I think the other thing is that we need to remember that WhatsApp exchanges, like most social media, are potentially in the public domain. And I'm not at all advocating censorship, but at times there are things that are said or expressed in a particular way that frankly make me wince. And I think potentially could be damaging to the reputation of the board. So I think we need to remember that all of our statements on WhatsApp could get into the public domain. So I guess my request is that we should ensure that, again, we express ourselves freely, but in a way that's still very respectful and courteous. I hope that this view is shared by other deputies. I'm probably now going to be barred from some of the WhatsApp groups.
No.
Thank you.
Actually, I think you've made a really good point, because even now, someone's just sent me a Twitter feed from Lee Harpin. I'll just read it, because the reputation of the board, and you all do represent your communities, does matter. So he's tweeted, from one fractious meeting to another, hearing board of debt while not exactly running smoothly, claims deputies being prevented from speaking. So I wonder who's actually said to Lee Harpin, to the press, that they've been prevented from speaking. Perhaps that person would like to let us know who they are, because that's not really very accurate. Who's been prevented from speaking? Does anyone want to put their hand up who's prevented from speaking? Well, if you've not been called, that's not being prevented from speaking, is it? Because there's too many people here. So I just think that's incredibly childish of people, if you know you've got your hands up, to start writing to the press as we're here, saying you're prevented from speaking. We're in a meeting. If there is a point of order, James Harris is saying he's got a point of order, so I'll let him tell Michael Uyghur, so we can carry on and hear the next person, what the point of order is, because it needs to relate obviously to the Constitution. So if you want to contact Michael, I'll go on to the next person and I'll come and hear the point of order afterwards, and obviously we'll have to turn off whilst we wait and hear what that is, and then I'll go through it. So someone who's not spoken before, Emma.
Hi, Emma Brand, EHRS. So I understand in the context of speaking to the CFI that you might have wanted to comment on the government's plans to review the embassy location. But I was just wondering, in the context of being there, at what point was a decision made with the people who were there to go beyond, welcoming a review, wanting to be involved in that consultation, and a decision was made to actually, come down on one side and offer an opinion on it. And this is again, coming back to processes, because, you know, there were a number of us who found out about this on Twitter, and we would just rather that kind of thing didn't happen again.
I've already explained to you, Emma, there were very senior people, including another HO, present at the event, and there were discussions beforehand. It's not just something that was said immediately, but obviously the CFI event was an event, and it wasn't possible to stop that event to go away and consult deputies. The overwhelming response from deputies has been supportive, and I absolutely respect that people have a different point of view. I really, really do. I'm just going to go offline now to speak to Michael Weger to see what the point of order actually was. So I'm just going to take my video and mute off, and I'll see what James Harris has had for his point of order. I should be back in a minute. James Harris has told Michael that he can't send it to him, but if James wants to send the point of order to Michael by email, Michael has said that he'll deal with it, and then I will look at the point of order. Thank you very much for your questions, and I'm sorry that they can't all be taken. We have heard a range of views, and several of you who've got your hands up have asked questions and got replies in the President's statement. So I do respect the diversity of opinion. The response that I've had has been overwhelmingly positive. To look forward to hearing more from a full review, and that review will come from the government. It will be a full review, and then I'm sure that we will be able to discuss that in full. So thank you for your time. I have listened to all of your opinions. So I want to thank you for all of your questions, and let's move on to the next part of the agenda, please. So can we move on to the President's statement is now concluded. Can we go on to the international division, David Mendoza-Wolfson?
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So my report is there, but some of the main things from it. I had a trip over to the US where I was in DC for the Interparliamentary Task Force on Online Anti-Semitism, and I met with a number of our US partners. We are hoping to really build, we're hoping to really build on our connections with partner organizations in the US over the remainder of the triennium, and I was thrilled to really start to build those connections. We do, of course, already have a project that we're running with ADL around Holocaust education in schools, and we're hoping to launch a new program with them too within the remainder of this triennium. We also, next month, will be having, I see I've already got a hand up from veteran ID member David Safir, but don't worry, David, I will definitely get to you, and I won't speak long. Next month, we are doing a delegation to Germany with representatives from a number of the of British Jewish denominations. This is to really get kickstarting our twinning project. The idea of this project is to create a formal network for synagogues to twin with each other, really across Europe. We're starting this with Germany and with the support of Germany, and I'm hoping that we'll then be able to extend that after a pilot across Europe and maybe even further afield. I'm sure I had something else I wanted to say as well. Oh yes, and we have our Abraham Accords reception also happening next month. I'm thrilled that we were able to invite all of the members of the international division to that. That's a slightly belated celebration of 2 years since the signing of the Abraham Accords, and our hope that they really are the beginning of what I think is probably the most promising move towards peace in the region in a number of decades. And finally, before I move on to questions, I just want to say that I think in my last meeting, I accidentally called Susan Pascoe a name that wasn't her name. I believe I gave her the name of a comedian instead, and I just wanted to put on record that I apologize for that. I believe me, with a name like mine, know what it's like to have people get your name wrong. So there we are. And with that, I'm happy to go over to questions, and I will start with David Safir, please.
Thank you very much, David. Welcome back to the UK. I hope you enjoyed New York and Washington and Chicago as much as many of us did when we lived there. Two very practical questions which relate to what happened at the CFI, but I think are for you to answer, if you will. Has the board reacted or responded, either in the UK or via the WJC, to the comments by the Catholic Archbishop of Westminster, Vincent Nichols, following the CFI statements and the board's comments regarding the movement or non-movement or right or wrongs of moving the British Embassy to Jerusalem? And secondly, have you or has the ID or has the board in any way been in touch with our Australian counterparts following the frankly quite offensive, I believe it's fair to say, statement by their current and new foreign minister regarding what she described as the still unresolved status of Jerusalem, and effectively making a political point against the former Prime Minister of Australia, Scott Morrison, who of course was very much supportive of that move. Thank you.
Thank you. I will start with the last point, which the answer to which is very simple, which is yes, we've reached out to our Australian sister community, and we will do what we can, of course, to support them. I think everybody was surprised by that statement that went out in what was either yesterday or tomorrow in Australia. I get very confused by quite where that date line is and how we live with it. On the other points, I think that mostly this is probably for Marie to answer, but what I would say is that all that has been called for is a proper review. I must say that I do believe that the vast majority of British Jews believe that or consider Jerusalem to be the capital of Israel and would like to see the embassy there. I also think that the vast majority of British Jews wouldn't want some kind of rush decision made and believe that it's right that there is a full review. That is what we believe that the government will be doing, and we are supportive of that review process. And I certainly don't think that it should be sort of considered or construed that anyone is saying that there should be sort of a snap of the thumbs. And that's frankly what I would say to the Archbishop as well. So I hope that answers those questions. I will just take these in the order they've appeared on the screen for me. Robert.
Robert Stone, Fisher Reform Synagogue. I'm going to combine an international question with another one, because there was an item on the agenda, questions to the President, that followed the President's statement, and I had a question on that, but it is related also to this. My question to you, David, is did the President actually consult you before she made the statement about the capital at the Conservative Friends of Israel? Did she consult you before making that statement? The question isn't whether it's right to have the capital there, but whether she should have made that statement. Because the President did not actually answer my question, which was that she said that she would, after the debacle in February 2021, where the constitutional reforms were blocked by a minority of deputies, she said she would disaggregate the essential points and bring them forward. I asked her why nothing whatsoever has been done to reform the constitution to make the board more representative and more responsive, and she did not answer that question. She said that Michael Ziff is going to start looking at it. The mess we are in now over Israel is an illustration of what has happened as a result of not reforming the way the board consults deputies.
So what I'll do is I'll answer that a little bit. Obviously, like you said, that's largely not really an international question, but I think, I am a trustee and a member of the exec. It's fair for me to give a bit of that an answer. And what I would say is, I, for one, am very supportive of us making changes to the Constitution. I think that it is vital. I think that if we look back at the attempts at the constitutional review in the last triennium, it was clear that the vast majority of deputies agreed with them. I don't think that we should be going at it the same way that we used to. I don't want to see us putting in a huge thing. I would much rather that we go piece by piece and look at different things in their own merits. I think that's the way to do it. But I am fully in support of us making changes to the Constitution that I think would make us a better and more dynamic organisation. Anthony.
Hello, thank you, David. It's Anthony Adler. I'm Deputy for St Albans Mizrahi Synagogue. It's sort of a similar question to David, really. I understand that the announcement of the CFI was not something that was put up for discussion broadly at the International Division. I'm curious as to whether you think it should have been, and whether you think it's more appropriate for HOs and the president to simply make these decisions and run for them in Marie on the hoof, I believe it was, with obviously consultation from people who happened to be in the room at the time. And I also, I've been a deputy for some time now, and I have lost count of the number of times that we have been told the character of the Board of Deputies is democratic and the organisation is democratic, and that is in some sense meaningful. I'm curious if a matter of such substance and such import is not to be discussed at the International Division, which is clearly the division to which it's relevant. In what way is the election of deputies to those divisions meaningful? Is it merely to rubber stamp whoever happens to lead the division? Is it meaningful at all? Have you got a better answer for me? Because quite frankly, as I think a lot of deputies might well agree, I am in a considerable state of despair with the Board of Deputies and the abysmal failure of its structures to be in any way representative of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Anthony. Look, it's definitely a fair question about the nature of democracy and the different types of democracies and where power lies and how accountability should be held. I absolutely think that we should make improvements to the way that we are able to hold myself and my colleagues and other members of the executive to account. And I would want to see those sort of, in a constitutional review. I also think that I keep the International Division as open as I possibly can. I hope that the members of the division would think that, and that observers have always felt comfortable coming along and feeling kind of equal in their ability to say things. And whatever the topic, I'm more than happy for us to discuss it at the division. I would also say that I am very pleased that we have done less talking about Israel in the division than has happened previously, because I think it is really important that we also focus on other aspects of being diaspora jury. There is a huge amount that we can do, and our focus shouldn't entirely be on Israel, but on building on the cultural heritage that we have with Jews all around the world. And those are things that I'm going to focus on. Now, I know that Joe has had his hand up for a long time, and I love to see a double barrel that ends in the word Wolfson, so I am going to take him now. But if it can be on another topic, that would be grand. Joe?
Joe Grabina Wolfson, no relation to David, sadly. David, unfortunately, it's not going to be on a dramatically different topic. It's going to be on a connected topic, which is Marie's comments have kind of blown your work apart, really, through her actions. She has established arguments in the press, brought opposition parties into the argument, brought the Catholic Church into the argument, really muddied the waters when it comes to what the Jewish community believe. And really muddied the waters when it comes to what you, David, are trying to, I think, do at the Board of Deputies through consensus, which I think a lot of us have always felt from you. So I guess my question is, how annoyed are you?
I'm annoyed that I'm not able to focus more on the issues that I think really do matter and that we can do something about, frankly. I think that it's a shame that people want to spend so much time talking about Israel when there are so many other issues that exist that have such an impact on us, and so many connections that we can build and don't, and so much time that we waste with people who are so passionate about so many things that aren't just Israel. And I know that so many of the people who have asked things today care about so much more than just Israel. And I wish that we had more time and ability to talk about things that aren't just Israel, because those are the things that I think matter. I absolutely think that issues relating to Israel matter as well, but let's not abandon, the fact that we are the 5th largest Jewish community in the world, and we should be doing things to support smaller communities, and not necessarily just having little arguments, because you talk about arguments here, arguments there. These arguments are going to be going on forever. On all issues, we're not going to find something that all Jews have a consensus on, an exact consensus anyway. And we know that those are even more heightened on this issue. What I would rather we do, rather than be a kind of talking shop about Israel, is focus on places that we can make improvements to our synagogues, to Jews in the UK and around the world. And I'm sure that doesn't quite answer your question, but I hope it goes some way. Brian.
Yes, Brian Bloom, Ajax, not on an Ajax issue, but on another issue and another subject you'll be glad to know, David. David, as you're probably aware, I'm a Litvak. I lost 27 of my family in the Holocaust in Lithuania. And it is an issue that Lithuania is in denial that they were the main people that murdered the Lithuanian Jews. It wasn't the Germans, it was mainly Lithuanians. You and I met at the last Litvak Day at the Lithuanian Embassy. Tomorrow is the 11th Litvak Day, which is going to be held this year on JW3. I've been asking, as you are aware, for a year now to have a meeting with you to discuss this subject. Could you please tell me what your views are on Holocaust denial by countries that we support, such as Lithuania, and what is the board's policy on that subject? We lost 2.6 million Jews out of the 6 million who were murdered, not in the camps, not in the concentration camps, but in their own fields, in their own villages, in their own towns across Europe. 2.6 million. What is our policy, please? Could you please tell me?
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brian. And by the way, I'm hoping to soon have a meeting organised between you, me, and someone from the embassy to discuss these things that I know that you are so passionate about. The vast majority of British Jewry have Litvak heritage. And I think that issues concerning revisionism are ones that worry us all. We have had a good relationship with the Lithuanian embassy where we've been able to raise certain issues about this, or all of the issues about this, and sometimes we've had good responses and sometimes responses that are less good. I think that wherever it pops up, we need to be at the front of making sure that countries cannot escape their complicity, the complicity of the people who lived there in the crimes of the Holocaust, and we cannot allow in European countries or anywhere for revisionism to kind of take hold and become these the main narrative that take place in these countries of victimhood, when of course that was a huge part of it, but not the whole story. And we need to make sure that there is not Holocaust distortion. As far as I'm concerned, Holocaust distortion is just another form of...
Thank you, David. I'm sorry, we've only got 20 minutes left of the meeting.
Oh, sorry.
Really sorry, because other HOs are not going to be having many questions, so I'm really sorry to cut you short. James, again, I haven't got details of your points of order from Michael Uyghur. If you want to write in a letter, I should deal with it. And on the constitutional reform, can I add that HOs worked extremely hard, including me, and we were very disappointed to be so narrowly off constitutional reform. And I also welcome any changes that will benefit the board. All the HOs know that, but we did try everything that we could, and it's a very, very difficult area, and we nearly got there. Amanda, and I'm very sorry, you're not going to have very long, and then it will be communities and then F&O.
Okay, I will make my report short, and hopefully the questions won't be about Israel, because what I'm going to be talking about is the issues that Defence Division are looking at, which are mostly confined to what's going on in the UK. So firstly, I want to share with you that beyond my report, I was pleased to be able to present alongside the Community Security Trust to the Crime Prosecution Services Hate Crime Coordinators Conference, looking at anti-Semitic hate crime, where we were able to provide some facts and figures in.
Is it me or is it Amanda that's gone quiet?
Amanda's gone quiet.
Amanda.
Do we have the Vice Chair? Brian?
No, we don't. He's in Israel.
Okay, I'm sorry, Amanda. We will go on to Edwin. Could we go on to Edwin and then we'll see if we can come back
and give a really good coordinators, and I focused on providing insights into the and we had the issues of prosecuting cases. Can you hear me?
No, Amanda.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can just about. I think Ruth Hart's question for you. I'm really sorry, Amanda.
Okay.
We can't. We haven't got very long, and I'm really sorry. Really sorry. Edwin, should we come on to? Should we come on to you?
Okay. Good evening, deputies. Edwin Shuker here.
I haven't finished, so there's no point taking questions.
We can't hear you, Amanda. We're really sorry. We can't hear you.
Okay.
Edwin, I think you need to carry on. I'm really
sorry. Good evening, deputies, and thank you very much for tolerating my absence. Committee meetings. As you know, I had asked Vice Chair Andrew Gilbert to take my place running the division until I feel comfortable enough to be back. I do feel very well at the moment. I'm focusing on things like the implementation of the Commission on Racial Diversity. You may know that Anthony Silkoff, who did a splendid job throughout the last triennial, making the minutes, writing it, and even on his return this time, he actually made charts and how to implement 119 clauses and recommendations from that division. Unfortunately, for us, Anthony Silkoff decided that he would like to move place to Barcelona, and we wish him great luck. But he left us with wonderful, detailed charts and clauses that we are going through them. I want to use my time doing that and consulting the wider Sephardic, Oriental, Mizrahi, and Jews of color, so that I could make sure that by the end of this triennial, the Board of Deputies would implement for itself all the recommendations, and will also be a pivot to having the community adopt whatever we can achieve during this triennial. The second thing I'm working on is digitizing the resources. But as far as the report which I present to yourself, that was done thanks to Vice Chair Andrew Gilbert, who attended, and thanks to Deputy Sheila, who actually is helping running the education part of the division. To both of them, I thank very much. To the rest of the division, I thank you also for tolerating my absence. I'll be back stronger and healthier, please God, in the new year. Any questions you may have to me, I welcome them. Anyone you want to ask about the report, I think Andrew will be happy to respond to. I see Amos.
Thank you, Edwin. Amos Schonfield, Deputy for Masorti Judaism. On first point, I just want to associate myself with what you said about Anthony. Anthony Silkoff, he also was very, took a real lead in marshalling what was BODSA and is now the Social Justice Committee. And I'm very grateful to him, and whoever takes over has big shoes to fill. I wanted to talk about one of your issue areas, which is youth engagement. We have seen over the past couple of weeks the routine ignoring and belittling of young people within our community and young deputies, and that has been repeated tonight. We had someone who belittled, a deputy who belittled younger deputies being involved as if it didn't matter. We had deputies being, as the young people would say, being left on red, literally sitting here waiting to be called upon and not able to. The 100 or so young members of our community who wish to engage in communal politics being told that their views don't matter. I've been working as a deputy for 7 years, and I have never seen treatment quite like we've seen over the past few weeks. I've seen a lot of patronising behaviour, a lot of belittling, and a lot of being ignored. And this was a very concentrated example. So my question to you, Edwin, is whether you think that youth engagement is in a better position than it was 3 years ago now, or in a worse position?
I know that I spent most of the last triennial, Amos, making sure with Marie, who had pledged to have the voice of the young leaders heard loud and strong. And I also know that they are working now on getting an executive, young member to be on the executive. That's what I know, and that's what I stand by. What I don't know whether you're talking about the last 2 weeks being this Jerusalem issue that seems to excite. And I also know that you have written to Marie, and Marie twice or three times responded to you and asked us also, the HOs, how to politely, respectfully take on board your comments and not far from ignoring you, far from marginalizing you on that subject. I also would like Andrew to speak as he has been working with the youth. And you know that with me and Andrew, you have an open house and open arms, and therefore I don't subscribe to what you said. I think that this Marie and certainly myself and Andrew have had huge respect to not only respect but wanted it and worked for it, and we will continue to do so. Andrew, would you want to comment on that?
The only thing I want to say is that the division set up a working group under deputies Toby Coonin and Ariel Symbol, and the purpose of that group is to work with the youth movements and young and youth organisations on the board around both taking forward policy in the community, making sure that if the board stands up on youth matters, that their interests are met in those areas. Also, to work with the youth movements and youth organisations in the community, and the two of them are bringing together those deputies from Zionist youth organisations at the moment. We're also working very much directly. I had a presentation from UJS, and UJS normally goes very much to the defence division, but we're looking on our division to work very much as beyond that on the community side and the student involvement in the community. So those two aspects where we're working with those deputies. So and I'm not referring to anything else, but that's the area that we're focused on in terms of youth policy and in terms of working very closely with those deputies.
Thank you. I'm going to take Sam Jacobs now.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry, Edwin, because Amanda's here. Okay. We're ending the meeting in 13 minutes. I'm really sorry. Could Amanda just have some opportunity to speak very briefly? And Amanda, if we lose you again, I'm sorry, you'll have to try again.
Sam Jacobs has tried to speak twice. It's the first. I think.
Yeah. And I also wanted to welcome him as a deputy as well as. But anyway, I'll leave it to you.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sam. I'm happy for you to take for Edwin to take your question.
Thank you.
Well, Amanda, anyway, go on, Sam, and then moving on to it.
Thanks. I'm now unmuted. Well, I think, can you hear me okay, Marie?
Yes, very well.
We can.
So thank you for the reports. I think, Edwin, your expressions about the youth and Andrew are really good. And I think it's good that there's more of a feeling that youth are involved. And I think what David was saying about other things other than the politics around Jerusalem is really important. But one thing strikes me tonight, we sort of talk about community and democracy. There are an awful lot of people here, maybe 130 people. I think one tiny step might be useful to consider for the executive committee in these meetings is maybe to enable the chat function so people can talk to each other during the meeting. I've been in very, very many Zoom meetings with thousands of people, and it creates more of an atmosphere of community and collaboration. And I get a sense there's a lot of pent-up feeling amongst some people who feel their views aren't being heard or democracy is not in action. And I think that would unblock some stuff, particularly in these meetings where we're not fortunate enough to be in one place. So that's my contribution. Thank you very much for making the space this evening.
Thank you, Sam, and welcome to the Board of Deputies.
Welcome back.
Amanda, your go. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Can everybody hear me now? Show me if you can hear me. I can't see, but I hope
we can hear you.
You can hear me, good. I don't know where you stopped hearing me before, but I was talking about the work that we've done with the CPS for the Hate Crime Coordinators Conference. And I wanted to reiterate the comments we made on how disappointed we were that the Metropolitan Police announced that they closed the case on last year's Hanukkah incident on Oxford Street. I want to pay enormous thanks to Andrew Gilbert and the London Jewish Forum for leading on engaging with the police as a response to that. And as part of it, I've been part of the process that we've been going through, which has involved several teams from the Metropolitan Police, representatives from the Mayor of London's office, Westminster Council and the London Assembly. And we've made it absolutely clear that this is the case that the community is going to judge the Metropolitan Police response to all anti-Jewish hate crime. And there are absolutely some lessons to be learnt, both about the process that the police go to when investigating such incidents, but also about the communications they have with the community. And we'll continue to engage with the Met on this, and I'll report back to the division on it. I just want to mention two other things, or one other thing about events that are coming up. Deputies, you know that we have open anti-Semitism meetings once a quarter. The next one is next Monday, the 24th of October at 5:30. Please do let either me or Joe Crossley know if you want to attend, and we'll send you joining instructions. A couple of other events that are coming up. We have a councillors seminar in Manchester the first weekend in November. The Interfaith Week is the week of the 13th, starting the 13th of November. So please do let us know if you're planning anything or you'd like us to identify opportunities for you to get involved. And finally, we will be attending a global Abu Dhabi forum for peace, which is involving faith leaders from many faiths, and we'll be attending that in November too. I'm happy to take questions. Thank you. Let me just see.
I'm really short on time. I'm really sorry. You know,
really short on time. Okay. I think we haven't heard from Rob Sassoon. So, Rob, would you like to?
Thank you very much, Amanda. Rob Sassoon, S&P Sephardi Community. Very quickly, I just wanted to make an observation, if I may, that the hands, the order you see the hands in the screen is the order in which they were put up. I don't know if you were aware of that, and indeed the President was aware of that earlier when she was taking questions, but just to let you know that there is an order to the hands, and it's the order, as I say, that they were put up in. The question I was going to ask it to the President, but I'll ask it to you instead, as your responsibility. You're responsible for parliamentary engagement as part of your remit. We have this evening a new Home Secretary, who I believe is the first Jewish Home Secretary in 25 years. At the time of speaking, the Home Secretary is Grant Shapps. And I was just wondering whether or not the board will be seeking a meeting with the new Home Secretary as he takes up this great office of state, and if so, what you'll be saying to him.
So we reached out to all of the relevant cabinet ministers in Liz Truss's new cabinet when she took office, and we were in conversation with the Home Office about arranging a meeting, and so we will pick that up again. And we have lots of things to discuss. that covers both my division's work and Edwin's division's work. And when we have the meeting, we will, as we do with all our meetings with ministers, we will have a conversation about what the priorities are at the point when we're having that meeting. But thank you, Rob. And I was aware of the order. But I'm conscious of the fact that both Lawrence and Paul are, Lawrence is on the division and Paul is one of the, on several of my working groups, and I wanted to give you a chance to ask a question. I know that we're very short on time, so Lawrence and Ruth and Paul, please do contact me offline and I will come back to you. Thank you, deputies. Marie, you're on mute.
Thank you for that, Amanda. The F&O division, I think that Michael is going to introduce Sid to come to give us some information. Is that correct? Where are you, Sid?
I can't see Sid, but Sid is giving the
Right.
report. Sid?
No.
He was there before.
We've all had connection problems tonight. It's been tough. Okay, does anyone?
Hello.
Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been unmuted. Thank you. I appreciate we're very short of time, so I'll cut my report to be brief. I want to thank Ben, obviously, for his leadership of the F&O. Deputies might be forgiven for thinking the F&O had been idle in the interval between Ben and Michael taking office. Let me dispel that idea in no uncertain terms. I won't go into details. I want to just mention two things, please. One is that the audited accounts have been signed off and filed. They're being uploaded to the board's website for deputies to view them, and our usual key point summary will be distributed along with the audited accounts to deputies. I think the plan is with the next set of papers that come out. Michael's going to talk about his major fundraising event. I just like to mention about the communal contribution, because that is showing signs of falling away quite dramatically. The board absolutely needs this money. 70% of the board's income comes from the communal contribution, and yet there are we've got a number of synagogues that have paid nil CC for the last 3 years, even 4 years, and would you believe 5 years? So please, would deputies go away and have a look and see whether their synagogue is holding on to any money, because if we've had nothing, does one suppose that the deputy themselves have not paid the communal contribution? And if they have, then is the synagogue holding on to the money, or has it been diverted, which is even worse? So please, would you take that on board? I don't want to speak, I won't speak anymore, but I'd like to, as I leave the acting treasurer role today, a couple of days ago, hand over to Michael. Welcome, Michael, and I look forward to working with you.
Sid? Right. I'll be very brief, Marie. Sid, thank you for everything you've done and the leadership that you've given in Ben's absence. And you've been wonderful in bringing me up to date with everything. The only key thing that is really important is that on the 30th of October at the Lancaster Gate Hotel, or Lancaster, sorry, the Island Grill, we have got our major event. We are at the moment sitting with 40 people. We need to get this to 100. It is really important that as many people can attend and pay something towards their attendance. At the same time, if you know of people who have been invited, who you can chase to make sure they come along, that's also important. Call me, speak to Michael Uyghur. We are really, keen to make this work. I know Sheila is also very much involved in this, as well as Angela. And the team of people who are involved nearly, want to make sure this succeeds and that we try and get as many people there. So the rest is over to you guys, and thank you very much indeed, and look forward to working with you all again.
Thank you, Michael. I just want to say again to James Harris, he was asked to provide details of his points of order. I've checked several times with Michael Rieger whether the details have arrived. They haven't arrived, and we've had a very busy meeting, but I'm very happy for James to write in. I can see that Sylvia has got her hand up. Is it a question, Sylvia, for the F&O report? We're going to close the meeting.
No, it's a question about what he just said. He wants people to go to that dinner, and I've sent a message, and I've actually had a reply. Some of us perhaps would like to go to the dinner, but are not in a financial situation to spend that kind of money. And I'm very upset. I've been involved in communal life for a lot of years, and I'm very upset when there are functions which are prohibitive because of money. And this one is prohibitive to me, certainly because of money. Did you get that?
I think Michael has heard that. It is difficult. The problem is, I suppose, is that it's a fundraising dinner, but Michael.
Sylvia, let me speak with you offline, and we'll have a chat, okay? Okay, I'm not sure. I'll ask Brian tomorrow to give me your number, okay? And I'll get in touch with you.
Flora, and then we're going to close the meeting. Thank you.
Now, I agree with what Sylvia said. I'm not saying that I'm in that situation, but I think we've got to cater for every single person. But I've also only 40 people responding. May I ask a question? Is this not a very good date? Perhaps this 30th of October, it's another question. Perhaps the date should be changed.
Michael Rieger, I'd rather Michael answer that question, because I don't think this is something that we can necessarily do.
Well, yeah, very briefly, I don't think we can change the date now. The date's been available and made public for a very, very long time. The purpose of the event is to raise money. I did say to all deputies that when we move into our new building, we will do a reception for all deputies, which will not be a fundraising event and will be open to everybody. But this event, its purpose is to help the board raise much needed funds. And so that's why we've asked people to suggest a minimum donation. That's really the end of it.
Well, what we really need perhaps is an event for all deputies to be able to come to and have a good
Absolutely.
For people to feel included.
As soon as we are moving into the new office, we will arrange that. The first thing.
That's really important. We want to do that. And I know we've got many and diverse points of view. I know people feel things very deeply. I want to thank everybody for being volunteers, for giving your views. I think it's really important. We've all got the same goal. I'm sorry that we're out of time, but again, what I think is very important is that people are respectful in the way that they give their views, and that we remember all the good we do working together, not just where we have differences of opinion. And again, Shana Tova to everybody, I wish you well, and I want to thank you for all of your time. Closing the meeting, can the HOs and staff team please stay? And I want to thank the staff team. You've done a great job tonight, so thank you. Thank you. Good night.